everyone gets disappointed in life. That's the misconception that a lot of people fail to remember, is that they think that when they're going through something, it's only happening to them. It's only them that's going through it. Discouragement is where it's different, because discouragement is when you refuse to be hopeful. Discouragement is when you refuse to work through it. Discouragement is when you just want to be negative Nancy to every single person that you talk to. So it's like, when you're somebody that can take those kinds of things and realize that this happens and you try to find a way out of it, that's when things change.
Fun show we have today. Olympic athlete Anthony Watson. What a journey he's had. His sport is the skeleton. It's sort of like a bobsled. It's like this rectangular thing, a few inches off the ice, and it goes as fast as 84 miles an hour is when your top speed.
Yeah, 84 miles per hour. Not my top speed, but the top speed that's been clocked. I think the fastest I've ever gone has been like 80.
That's crazy. I saw some videos of crash compilations, and I literally had to stop watching this thing. Yeah. Have you ever been in that situation?
Oh, I've lost teeth because of crashing like that. Lost teeth, my helmet flew off, hit my face like on a rare patch of like raw concrete that the ice had gotten like broken off of. And when I got back, I had a mouthpiece in there, but it felt like I was chewing like a mouthful of crackers, and I was like, what the heck? And I was like, Plah. And then I was like, oh, that's like this whole entire side of my mouth smashed and whatnot.
So you were a serious athlete.
Oh,
we make fun of the bobsled and the luge and all, but you were a serious athlete, and you had an injury, and that compelled you to go into this sport. Is that what happened?
Yeah, so I grew up in New Jersey, so I'm an East Coaster. Love the beach and love everything humidity. So I'm really happy to be in Miami right now. Mm-hmm. But I grew up in what other people would consider like unfortunate situations, like really humble beginnings and stuff. But I had two really good God-fearing parents that like refused to let me be what society was trying to shape me into being. And so, I think that, parents, have a really like hard job, but the results that you guys get when you dedicate the time to actually being a parent, because far too many, like you have moms and dads everywhere. You got baby mamas and baby dads galore with zero responsibility. Very few people that actually want to be parents. Mm-hmm. So that's doing the due diligence of everything you need to do to like make sure that your kids have the values and morals instilled in them and then grow up. And so I remember at the young age of 6, I was watching the Olympics, Michael Johnson, Mr. Gold Cleats in the 96 games here in Atlanta in the 90s, and I told my dad, I was like, I want to do that someday. And he told me 3 things. He said, you honor God, you make good decisions, surround yourself with people that make good decisions, and you'll be able to go anywhere. Now, growing up, I had my rebellious stage and whatnot, but I had a dad that wasn't afraid to discipline me with that thing that he called his belt every now and then. And, I stand here as somebody through hard work, dedication is an Olympian.
Okay, so you represented Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
Your dad is Jamaican, and so that allowed you the...
Yeah, my dad immigrated here from Jamaica legally. Making sure I just specify that. But he came here and then met my mother when he was in college. They got married, and then I'm just a byproduct of that story. But I'm first generation American, so I have a deeper appreciation because I have parents that both come from families that were born outside of the United States.
So how long were you? How long was it? One time that you were in the Olympics, or how many times did you go?
I was an alternate for Team USA in 2014, but didn't get to compete. And then I made history as the first ever Jamaican to compete in the 2018 Winter Olympics for Jamaica. So I started with Team USA, but then didn't really see my pathway getting there. Mm-hmm. And then through politics and there was, I think, 33 dudes competing for 3 spots. And then through everything that they had, I was just like, yeah, realistically, I wouldn't have had a chance had I stuck with it until about 3 years ago.
Oh, wow.
To actually try, had I stuck it out. And so I switched, and a lot of athletes normally do that. So you see a lot of athletes that start with predominantly big countries that train them really well. Then they go to smaller countries, and then they just take the training, and then they do really good, and then they get a better chance at getting in. And so that's the pathway that I took. And it came with a lot of flack. Everyone was like, you're cheating. You're taking the easy way out. I'm like, listen, if you had dual citizenship,
right?
I was like, I'm sorry that you're German and Canadian. Yeah, they're 2 powerhouses, and you can't, go that route.
At least you didn't choose to be a girl.
Don't even get me started on that. Okay, we're opening the can of worms right away. I love it.
Well, come on, we got to hear his story first.
But, so, and then what? Did you have an accident, or how long? when did you end that?
I competed in bobsledding and skeleton, I think, for a 12 to 13 year career.
Wow.
So I had been in it for a minute, and then everything kind of came toppling over in 2019, going into 2020, when we were at the height of like Black Lives Matter and everything else. And I was doing an interview and then criticized them and then said that I think BLM is dumb. I was getting interviewed by a Latvian reporter overseas, and it was me, this other guy from Ghana. We were the only two black people competing in skeleton, period.
My God.
He was all about it, and I wasn't. And then there was like two guys in Team USA, 3 guys for the Brits, and then like one black guy for the Austrian guys, like, and then I think 2 for the Germans. So naturally, when you see like another brother in like a sea of like whatever, but I've always felt at home in those kind of areas. You know, like I went to a private school growing up, and you know, where I was like 1 out of 5, but you know, to me, it was just like being around people who were Caucasian like felt normal to me.
Yeah.
So when I'd see people, I wasn't doing anything else. The only time I would ever think about it was when all these other people would be like, yeah, man, it's just all these white people. I'm like, oh, I
you didn't even know.
I never even like thought about it. I guess we are kind of like outnumbered here, but I was like, at this point, race doesn't matter. The only race that matters is how quick you can get from this race to the bottom of that one.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, it's got nothing to do with it. And I said, and besides, you guys got the superior genetics. So what I said, what are you pouting about? And so, you know, so she did an interview with me, and her question was, so with everything happening in the world right now, you know, like everything happening with, you know, George Floyd and like social, I was like, as a black man, how do you?
2019?
It's 2019.
Okay.
Man.
And then after I did
Set you up.
after I did this interview, like they scrubbed it. You can't find it anywhere because I guess the IBSF and like everybody else were like, oh, we don't want any record of that. So
Wow.
So I simply said that they were just like, so what do you think? Do you feel like that's impacted you as an athlete here to give you a better chance to succeed? And I said, I think BLM is the dumbest scam out there. And I said it before Candace did. So I want my props.
You should trademark that.
With her,
You should trademark BLM.
and she was like dumbfounded, didn't know what to do, didn't know what to say, and then out of everything came out and was just like, do you care to explain? And I was like, you have to be an idiot to hire strangers that don't live in your neighborhood to bust them in, fly them in, to come and destroy everything that you own, to then they get to go home, and then you have to go back and now live in this mess that you created. And I was like, if BLM really cared about black people, I said, what community have they cleaned up after they destroyed it? I said, what black business have they invested in that got destroyed in the mayhem and in the crossfire? Because I said the news captured a lot of people who were black business owners being like, I put all of my life savings into this. I don't have any insurance. Like, I'm not going to recover from this. This thing really like took me out, heartbroken and crying. I said, they haven't put any kid through school. They haven't fixed any community. They haven't donated to break broken families whole again. And I said, the same people that they were criticizing, you know, are now their next door neighbors because now they want an easier life for themselves because all they did was criticize everybody else. And I said, you got to be dumb to think that that's actually something that you could support. And then a week later, all of my sponsors, they dropped me.
Okay, so here we go.
But you missed one thing, though. They did use the money to buy some mansions.
Well, yeah, that's what BLM stands for.
I buy a lot of real estate. So Olympic athletes don't make any money. Let's clarify that in the first place. So I don't know, you got a stipend or something. Somehow you're able to keep your head above water all these years. You're pursuing your sport. Finally, you start to get some sponsorships. So who, if you can, who are these sponsors? How much money were you making when times are at your best in this area? What did that look like?
Well, when it was at the worst, it was literally my parents and my siblings were like all working part-time jobs. I remember my dad got himself this expensive watch as a gift, and he almost went out to pawn it to give me money to go and help me stay supported
while you're pursuing your sport.
While I'm pursuing my sport.
This is not the aftermath. This
is on the come up. This is like how much of a struggle it is. As an Olympian, you have to cover all of your training costs, all of your travel, all of your race fees, your training fees. Anytime you want to go work out, you have to pay for it. Your meals, I was like your flights, your hotels, your rental cars, you have to cover and pay for all of that. And then if you have a coach full time, like if you were my coach and you were traveling with me, I had to accommodate everything. I had to pay for your flights. I had to pay your yearly salary. I had to pay for your hotel, your food, and everything else, plus the fees that you would have to charge on top of coaching.
And you have to retain your amateurship too. You can't take money from anybody, right? Are you allowed to?
You were allowed to, but it was when Olympians, like athletes, would qualify and get to the Olympics. We legally weren't allowed to promote our sponsors on the Olympic level. It wasn't until 2022 that the Olympic Committee finally abolished that, and they're just like, fine, if you have sponsors that help you get here, you can promote them and do all this other stuff. So that's what started changing, but that was after I was already gone.
Okay.
And so like I was sponsored by couple of really, really big predominant sports clubs and everything else. And then, a couple of very private, very wealthy groups that were like, oh my gosh, we love what you're doing and everything else. And so I went from having
sports clubs. What do you like? What like a?
It's like sports brands, like
You
okay.
can shame them.
Can I?
Yeah.
I was like, you could just bleep it out. It was
No,
like,
you
so
can
I was
shame
sponsored by
deserve it.
Nike. I was sponsored by Gatorade. I was sponsored by like Mercedes.
Big
and,
names.
And
Big,
so like
biggest.
these things would but Mercedes, like I wouldn't like get a car, but like when I was in another country, I would give them like a card that would let me have a free rental if they had a Mercedes on site.
Wow.
So like things like that, then I would get like partnerships with like hotels to like have free stays and like Airbnbs to have like free stays here and there to kind of help me because, when you're
Expensive.
and like these are some of the most expensive places in the world that you could go to because they're historic, they're Olympic sites and, people have to upkeep everything. I think the most expensive place that I had ever stayed in was a town called St. Moritz, Switzerland. And everyone's like, where's that? And I was like, well, let me just give you an example of how wealthy it is. I was like Aston Martins. I was like McLarens. Let's see, Rolls Royces, luxury line, top luxury line, Mercedes, Benzes, Audis. I'm talking like super G Audis and stuff were the taxis of the town. And if you wanted to go just down the taxis. So if you wanted to go down the street, it was a minimum, like to go anywhere was a minimum of 250 Swiss francs.
Wow.
So I mean, like you get out of the track, like you turn right. There's a Rolex store right here at the entrance of the track. There's a Rolls Royce dealership like right here, and then just like fur coats and everything else, and then all these other high end things in the middle of the Swiss Alps was where this race took place. So you can imagine how expensive everything is. I remember we went to go get lunch. I got like a chicken cordon bleu, and it was like really big. I couldn't finish it, so I was like, "Can I have a box to take it?" And the waiter was like, no, we don't give boxes. You don't take it. You either eat it or we throw it away. And I was like, and that cost me $120.
Oh, wow.
So I sat there for 45 minutes and I stuffed myself until it was all gone. Because I'm like, I'm not throwing this away. I might as well just go throw money in the streets right now. So then when all of that was happening, before I got there, I was somebody who, when it was training and it was a regular season, like it was coming down to decisions of whether or not I was going to eat that day or whether or not I was going to train. And the very little money that came in, I was like, I just got to go train. Like I can always like get something later. And so my body like was really, really bad. And so it entered like a really severe stage of starvation mode where like the smell of food would like make me full, but I was losing weight at like record weights and stuff. And it was there was a lot that I went through to like just keep it together, but I had a good family that helped me through it. And then even afterwards, I think the most heart-wrenching thing was hearing what my federation, when they heard the stance that I took, and then everybody else.
Let's back up 1 second. So you say this to the reporter, it gets completely scrubbed. Yet somehow it goes to all of your sponsors.
Well, it's scrubbed now because like a couple of months later when they because I was like looking for it and they're just like, oh yeah, like they got it. And then all of my friends who I had started this Olympic journey with, that knew who I was, had many conversations with me like this, had the same feelings about things that I did, but wouldn't say anything, were now the ones that were like, yeah, we don't know that guy. We don't want anything a part of him. So, I mean, like, a whole community that embraced me at one point just turned their back on me.
This is after the Olympics are over. So this is glory time. This is time to bask in your glory, get your sponsorships, live a little bit better, and so on. And then, so how much thereafter did this interview take place from the end of the Olympics?
This was the year after World Championships.
A year after the World Championships.
Yeah. So 2018 was my last Olympics.
Okay.
And 2019 was the year that I was trying to like go back again.
Okay.
And just qualify for World Champs. And then after that, I haven't touched ice or been around anything Olympic since then. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
So it's just in a moment your life turned, took a different trajectory.
Yeah.
Out of the blue.
And it was one of those things that no matter how much you tried to fight against it, there was nothing you could do to like stop it where it was going.
So you had a whirlwind of the media that attacked you as well.
Yeah, I had a lot of people like from Jamaican reporters that were just like, oh, Anthony was never a real Jamaican anyway. He's American, and we reserve the right to now hold these opportunities for real Jamaicans. I'm like, so not only like saying that I wasn't a good athlete, but now even saying that I've got no ties to the heritage that I was born with.
Wow.
And so
that's cancellation,
and really having everybody, and then like all people that I've talked to now, come back and be like, we just like, we don't appreciate this, and we just got to keep our hands off. And then the people that still agree, they're like, hey man, props to you. It's just like, I just can't really say anything. I just want to let you know that you're doing good, but I just don't tell anyone that we talk. I'm like, yeah, like there's nothing, like being beat up is bad, but then having someone when you've been kicked down and like you're bleeding out, that kind of thing, be like, hey, I'm sorry that happened to you, but don't tell anyone that I was feeling sympathetic for you.
Wow.
And then it's kind of,
friend,
like
in particular, a good an old buddy.
Couple of them.
Yeah. So tell us about that. Like, who did you lose along the way?
I lost everybody. The only people that I didn't lose were my parents and my siblings. But everyone back then, like I said, people that I had grown up with since kindergarten, grade school, that knew who I was, saw me having Olympic aspirations at the young age of like 11, doing sports all throughout high school and college, and now being able to say that I've been to an Olympic Games and got to compete at the highest level of athletics. Because I tell everyone, I was like, Olympians train hard, just as hard, if not harder, than these athletes that get paid $120 million a year in their contracts. You see people like Steph Curry and LeBron James, they spend more time.
What's that?
God bless you.
Thank you.
Those guys spend more time. Okay.
Okay, good.
Say it again. The staff.
No, I was saying you have athletes like we as Olympians train just as hard, if not harder. Another one's coming?
Hold on.
Is it my cologne?
I always sneeze in this room for some reason. In this room, I sneeze and cough.
Okay, good. So I don't have to
Not
take
you,
that
no,
personally.
it's
I was
not
like,
you,
it's me. I was like,
No.
I'm so sorry.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was saying that Olympians have to train hard, if not harder, than athletes that get paid these millions of these multi-million-dollar contracts, because you see people like LeBron James and Steph Curry, half of the season, they're just dressed nice with their chains, watches, and sunglasses sitting on the bench because they're hurt. I've been hurt. I've had 2 broken wrists. I've had like a dislocated hip multiple times, both of them. Dislocated shoulders, broken bones in my foot and that kind of thing. And I've still had to go out there and I've had to go do whatever, because at the end of the day, it's just like I'm paying all this money, and if I leave, there's like nothing I get out of it except like a big headache. Yeah. So all of these people don't realize the kind of work and dedication, which is why when you watch the Olympic trials from here on out and you see somebody that was this close to making it and don't make it, that's why they're so devastated. Yeah. It's the years and the time, because 13 years as traveling as a winter athlete. So I was gone from September until April. So May, June, July, and August were the only months that I was home. And so that's 13 years where I missed Christmas, 13 years where I missed Thanksgivings, 13 years where I missed the birth of my nieces and my nephews and whatnot. I wasn't able to be home for that. And I'm on the road, and most times feeling like I'm chasing something that ain't going to happen.
And they're invoicing you. You're paying your ways.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know that you had to pay so much money to be in the Olympics. I mean, they make a ton of money.
The Olympics make billions. It's a multi-billion dollar.
What do they do with the money they make?
That's most of it goes to like the countries.
Well.
There are some. We can get into that. Most of it goes to like help countries fund in some ways, because not all of it goes there. It goes to help fund where this next city and next country is going to host the Olympics. But like when you look at it now, most countries that host an Olympic Games, it bankrupts their country. They have to spend almost trillions of dollars, clearing sites, building venues, and then for one thing in history, and then it's just monuments that just sit there.
It happens a lot.
So it's just like Beijing is the only country that's ever hosted an Olympic Games, I think twice, and 2 different types of events multiple times. But I mean, like when you're the biggest like scam artists in the world, so I mean, I guess it kind of works in your favor. So.
But I guess what it does for Olympic athletes, and when you do win medals, then you become. People sponsor you for other stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it becomes like
that's the payoff. I was never a medalist, and I was never somebody that most people banked on winning. But I mean, like I gave people hell from the start, and then throughout the race was where people started to slide and push away. But I mean, like physically fit and fast, that's what I was, and I was a threat to a lot of people there, because I remember when I first joined and like started coming in, everyone was like, oh man, we got another black guy here. It's just like, go back to track and field, go to basketball, stick to your people's sports, and let us at least have this one. Uncool. I'm like, what? I was like you get to tell me that?
Mr. So Jamaican.
Yeah. So all of that stuff happened, but I mean, in the end, it was something that I feel like needed to happen. And the reason I say that is because where you see us as where the world is now, you have a lot of people that, for the things that they believe are feeling like they're losing out on something. But it kind of comes with the territory, And everyone asks me now, it's like, would you go back and re-say anything or change anything? And I was like, no.
Here's the question for you. Who's writing your story, you or some random dude on the internet? If you're sick of Google, gossip blogs, or that one angry ex controlling how the world sees you, it's time to do something about it. Erase.com helps you take back your narrative by removing harmful content, outdated info, and straight-up lies from search engines. Your past shouldn't be a permanent headline. Erase.com gives you the reset button that the internet forgot to include. So don't let the web define you. Go to erase.com, use code ERASED for 10% off, and start owning your story today. Links in the description. Click it. Your future self will thank you. So things happened pretty on a dime. Your life changed. Sponsors pulled out right away. All of them, everybody,
every single one
gone. And so then you're like, what were you feeling like at that time?
I was depressed. Like, I'm not an anxious person. I'm a rare person that believes that anxiety and depression are choices, because everyone battles with the temptation of giving into it. But, I've never been someone to ever tell anybody that, I have this kind of anxiety. I was like, I hate that. To me, like, as an athlete, you have to find a way to push through regardless of what you're dealing with. And, you learn a lot of life lessons in sports. You learn how to be dedicated. You learn how to be committed. You learn how to be disciplined. You learn how, to be oriented despite what's against you, because you have no other choice. It's either succeed or fail. Yeah. And, there is no in between. It's either one or the other. Here, so many people like living in the middle, where it's like they try enough to say that they tried. And if they fail, then it's because of this reason.
Were you always clear on this, or did you arrive at this?
No, I was always clear on it. That's how I was raised. My dad always told me, he was just like, you have a lot of people that depend on a lot of things, but he's like, anxiety, depression, he's like, that's a choice. Because he's like, even in your anxiety and depression, I said, you still have choices to make. The choices in those seasons are, do I take my medication? Do I seek help? Do I do all these other things? Do I talk about it? Do I keep it concealed? He's like, you always have a choice to do in any of these circumstances. He's like, why not just make the choice to just not deal with it? Now, that's not me saying that I don't deal with it at all. Like, I get hit with a lot of things that make me want to panic and go into a whirlwind, but I just got to be like, okay, like, just take a couple of seconds to be like, okay, now what can I prioritize and what can I take out first that's going to make this not so stressful? Yeah. I get stressed out a lot because of the things that like hit me in the moment last minute. But I mean, like, I've learned how to push through it. I mean, like, when you've been in the situations that I've had where you've literally had nothing and you've had to like find a way to make life continue.
Tell us about that. When did that happen?
Well, I mean, like, for me, what happened in that was when everybody left and when I had nothing, when I was left with nothing, for about 2.5 months, oh man, it's hard. For about 2.5 months, I was very, very suicidal. And so I think for me, I know in that time, I didn't want to be that way. I just didn't know what else to do. And I had put so much time, and I'm talking in that entire season, I'm going through every single childhood memory. I'm going through every single time when I turned down doing something because I wanted to go train, to now sit here and be like, it wasn't worth it at all. And thinking that the world would have been better without me, because I felt like I failed everybody. And I think the biggest thing that contributed to that was what I saw what my family went through to help me get there, watching my sisters, my parents, like, work extra jobs, take all the money out of their grocery fund, their car insurance and everything else to help me just get to one more race. Now, because things were harder for them, I felt responsible for it. I felt like I put them in this position, that I was the one who made things harder for them, and everyone's now in a more uncomfortable position because I spoke up and said something. Now I've lost everything, and now life is harder for everyone that I care about. And so to me, it felt like the best solution at the time was to just like not exist anymore. And I remember having a phone conversation with my dad, and at the time I think I had called him because that's when I was really contemplating, and I was just like, I'm just going to say goodbye. And I come from a Christian household, and I remember my dad answering the phone, and his first question wasn't hello, it was, what's the matter? And I was like, what? He was just like, I don't know why, but he's like, God put you on my heart and he told me that you're in trouble. So he's like, what's going on? And I just,
it made me cry.
Yeah, I broke down and I told him everything. And so I do think that there is a mental health thing that people need to address. But outside of the mental aspect, there's a spiritual crisis that a lot of people are doing, because a lot of people are putting all of their physical strength into things that don't last.
Yeah.
You know, and it took a lot.
So your dad called? Did you break down like when he asked?
Oh yeah. I'm about to break down now, man. I'm trying my hardest to keep it together.
You're making me cry, so you can let it out. So I'm not the only one crying. Monica, can I have a tissue box before you mess up my makeup? You're messing up my makeup.
I'm sorry. Let me take an awkward sip of water.
Tell us. So was your dad able to talk you out of it? Did you tell him what you were contemplating?
I didn't tell him in that moment.
You didn't?
Mm-mm. I told him, I think a year later.
Wow.
A year later when, as a son, you know, because I'm the only boy in my family. I got 3 sisters. And, you know, the only approval that I've ever lived for was my father's. And in that moment, I felt like by telling him that, it would have been like the real. And when I ended up telling him later on, I was like, you do know that in that moment I said I was contemplating like ending my life. And he's like, I know. And I was like, why didn't you say anything? He was like, why didn't you say anything? I was like, I was nervous that you were going to hate me. He's like, no, I don't hate you. I love you. And then I broke down again. I was just like, oh. I was like, why are you so amazing? So I think that, you know, I learned a lot.
But was that conversation what talked you out of it, or were you still
that conversation? Yeah, it was where I turned, and like the journey to like get out of that was hard.
Was it just his loving presence that?
What were some of the things he said to help turn you around? Because it sounds like
it was like very helpful for the world, or the other people that need to speak to others who might be going through a similar situation. What can we say or do?
Like my dad told me, because I told him, I said, you know, I'm dealing with all of this garbage. All of these bad things are happening. Is this like God's sign that I'm doing the wrong thing? And then, you know, oh man, oh wow. He, you know, you know, he told me, he's like, you can be at the center of where you're supposed to be when all hell breaks loose. And he's like, and it's like that intentionally, because you have a lot of people who are watching you to see what you do next. And he's like, what you do next is either going to hurt you and other people, or it's going to help you and everybody else that's watching. And that to me was when, oh man, you sure it's okay to like just get emotional here?
Yeah.
Okay. You would not be the first. You would not be the first.
He cried when I interviewed him.
Yeah. I could cry every now and then.
You know, so I you know, that's what shifted. And then that's when everything that became a negative that I was thinking of, I started to try and see like what I was supposed to be learning in those moments. And in that moment, what I learned here was how to fight for myself in that moment. So that, because now when I share that story with all the high schools and schools that I've gone to, I've had students that have reached out to me. I think one of the most touching stories I've had was when I shared that story, there was a girl who DM'd me afterwards, and she said, you're the best speaker that's come to the school that I ever wanted to pay attention to. She's like, I just want to say thank you, because I was going to go home and kill myself today. Oh. And she was like, and you made me change my mind. And like, what do you say to somebody like that? Wow. Thank you. Like, you know, and then weeks later, she was starting to spiral again. And so she had like, and like, it's a story of like a lot of students everywhere. I've had students like send me pictures of them literally slitting their wrists. I've had students like reach out to me and like show me messages of like, you know, abusive things that people send to them. And they're just like, I don't know what to do. I think I just need to end things. And it's just like, you know, going through what I went through, I know what it's like. Yeah. And being able to help other people out of that, I feel like is what that season was for.
I mean, I know you're a man of God, you know, and there's no mistakes, and it's quite possible all the hardships that you've been through has been for this purpose right here. I'm sure this has crossed your mind.
No, for sure. And I think the reason why conservatives are always behind is because we entertain the hypotheticals too much.
What do you mean?
When liberals come out and they say something that we know is false, they say it as a definite. They say, we know, facts shows, science proves, all these definite responses that we're just like, we're left most of the time being like, well, what I think, because we come from an opinion place. Right. But I'm tired of coming from that place. I know that there are only two genders. I know that boys can't compete with girls. I know these things because of this is how the outcome is. This is the result of everything. So now when I do things, I always come from a place that's definite. And I tell everyone, I know that isolation is where you start to self-mutilate, where you start to emotionally break yourself down, where you start to separate yourself from everybody else because you think it's better for everyone else that you're not weighing them down with these other kinds of things. Yeah. But I said the biggest thing that a lot of people fail to realize is that we need community here. So for myself, going through all of these seasons and dealing with what I went through, I didn't know what it was going to lead to. Yeah. I didn't even know what the end looked like. I still don't even know if what's happening now is a byproduct of this or if it's just chance. But the opportunities that I've been presented with that come up, I'm not afraid to tell people where I've been because I'm not there anymore, and I tell everybody the same thing that my dad always told me because, I love my dad and like everything that he's meant to me. You can't motivate, inspire, encourage, or help anyone from a place that you haven't been. And the only place that you can tell anybody anything about is your past because your future is uncertain because it all depends on what you do now, where you're going to end up later on. So that's why when we say things that socialism sucks because it doesn't work or communism doesn't cure anything, the only thing we have to reference is our history where it's never worked. Yeah. So you can try to rebrand it, try and do all these things, but the heart of greed and vigilance to make people feel terrible, to get more for yourself is still very prominent because that's what it was built on. Mm-hmm. And so the one thing that I try to add in everything, every conversation, every school, every person that I interact with is an element of my faith because it works, and I've seen that through my past. That's been the only thing that's gotten me here. Our country was founded on those principles, which is why it's lasted so long, and when we are people that try to drift and go away from where our beginning was, that's when things get a little chaotic because we started doing that and we got a glimpse of that this past administration where we almost lost our country. And everyone who sits there and thinks that, oh, well, it's no big deal. I mean, like, America's going to be America. But I tell everyone, I'm like, listen, if you don't learn how to fight for your country now, if you don't learn how to fight for yourself now, I said, what you guys, and I tell kids, I said, you're in high school now. You don't learn how to stand up against your peers now. What are you going to do when you're a freshman in college and you got to take on your professor and the school board? Mm-hmm. I said, when you graduate college, then it's you as a rookie in your career against all these seasoned, tenured people that no matter what they say and do, they can't get fired, but they can give you hell for it. Mm-hmm. I said, your actions are what define the type of people you want to be. And I said, those are the only things that you can control because the two things in life that you are 100% in control over are two absolutes. And I said, out of everything that you know from your past until your present moment today, you're only in charge of what you say and do to people and how you respond to what's said and done to you. Outside of what you say and do and how you respond to what's said and done, you can't control the weather. You can't control opinions. You can't control circumstances, outcomes, results, beginnings, opinions, everything else. The only thing you can do is respond to all of those situations because I said people's response is actually what catches people's attention. When people expect you to react a certain way and then you respond in kind, that's what actually starts shifting people's opinions to actually start supporting what you're doing. And so now, through everything, through all the BLM protests, through all of the cancellation, the issues of the black community that I stood up and said were stupid are still happening. And BLM is nowhere to be found. Yeah. The issues that are fighting, that feminists fought for this entire time. Money, exactly. I said, are still happening, but very few people are actually doing anything about it because of what it cost them. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, sacrifice and leadership always comes with sacrifice and compromise because I said you have to compromise on the things that you believe to actually know what it is to go through something so that you know what it is to fight for something.
So I kind of have a theory around this because, we had a similar thing where we spoke out. Well, mainly I spoke out. My husband was extremely supportive and they tried to completely cancel me and flatline me. And in the moment, it's hard. But I really felt in my body and my soul that God was basically strengthening my soul. He was preparing me for something bigger. He was teaching me how to be a warrior by basically real life. I'm going to throw you into the fire, girl. Let's see how you roll. And there was a lot of prayers. There was a lot of meditation. There was a lot of calming my mind because there was so much noise around me. And it just bombarded after bombarded after bombarded. And the hate, when I'm like, I'm just trying to help. I just don't want people to get an experimental what. Yeah. And so I believe the same thing with you.
Mm-hmm.
You said the words, they came out of your mouth because you're connected to God,
Mm-hmm.
and you were supposed to say that. You were supposed to go through what you went through, because going as low as you went, you needed to experience that, because in the job that you're in now, meeting all these young people who are at the low, you wouldn't really be able to relate to them if you hadn't experienced that.
Yeah.
And so that strengthened your soul really strong to where now you're out there inspiring and motivating other young people. So maybe could we talk a little bit about that?
Sure.
How did Charlie Kirk find you? When did you start working for Turning Point, and where did that turnaround happen? Where did you go from, on the phone crying with your dad, and then realizing, no, God chose me to be here. He has a purpose for me, and I'm gonna and something great is gonna come around the corner. I just need to be strong and learn anything that I need to learn so my soul is stronger.
Yeah.
What happened after that point?
Well, I'll be honest, like in that transition period, it was still difficult for me to see this as a good thing.
It takes time.
I was bitter, resentful,
process.
and very angry for a long time. And when I first joined the conservative space, I was everything. I was the poster child of what a conservative was not. I was someone that came in and was like, well, I made it to the Olympics, I got canceled, and now I just deserve all this fame and attention and everything else because I need to get my lick back in a sense, or I just need to get back to where I was. And God has a very good way of just humbling you in a way that just like makes you never want to go down that road again. So Charlie didn't find me, I found him. This was when he had started speaking up and saying all these things, and that was when Turning Point had like a smaller following.
Mm-hmm.
So
What year was this?
This was 2019.
The same
Okay.
year.
Found him in the same year.
Okay.
And then 2020 was when I joined as an ambassador. So that was just I was a special guest. I would post some of their content and reshare, and then I would show up to their events, and they were able to provide me a way to get there at no charge, as to just enjoy like being around
And speak?
like-minded people. I have never spoken at a Turning Point event yet.
Okay. All right.
Not yet. I was
Okay.
like, maybe one day. But
Okay.
like I said, my mindset's changed.
Okay.
And so it was like a breath of fresh air, because I'm sure when you guys were going through all of this, when you found other people that were in public settings saying the exact same thing, you're like, yes, I found my people.
Well,
Yes.
so we have a school,
Yeah.
and her stance on the what's made many of the parent community run for the hills, but the literally global media attention that came to our school with the media camped out every single day brought people from all over the world, literally Australia, England,
No way.
Canada. Yeah, they didn't know where they were going to live. They didn't know what they were going to do, but they knew this was the school that they must put their kids into.
Mm-hmm.
And so these are our brothers and sisters. You
Yeah.
know, yes, we found each other.
Man, brothers in arms, So I started going to events regularly. I had met like some really good people. Like one of my best friends that I consider a brother now, his name is Taylor Winston. He was a mass shooting survivor from the Route 91 concert that happened in Vegas. And his story was he stole a car because the rules of like when an active shooter is going, like emergency responders can't go in there. They have to wait for the shooting to stop. And at that point, it could go on for however long and more people could die. So he said his story is, he was there, then people heard shots ringing out, but they thought it was fireworks or something to go with the event. Then when people started screaming and you started seeing people drop, he's like, some guy dropped right next to me because he had gotten hit. Mm-hmm. I was screaming, telling everybody to get down. People were running for the fence, trying to get over the fence. And as they're trying to get over the fence, they're getting caught in the barbed wire. People are getting shot on the fence. People are there. And he's like, but he's a Marine. And he stole a car that was there because he says he knows at festivals a lot of people are prone to like leaving keys in there. So he went and did I think 3 or 4 trips where he saved over a dozen people, just grabbed critically injured people, threw them in the bed of the truck, drove them to the hospital, went back into the active shooting zone, grabbed more people, and did all of that. I met him at my very first event in 2020, and that was down here when everything was shut down, attendance was cut in half, and no person would let you go anywhere unless you were or wearing a mask. And so he was somebody that when I first met him, we didn't say anything about who we were and where we, like, what our past was. So, you know, it wasn't until we were at the airport in West Palm, he was like, I want to go speak at some schools. He's like, would you be down to do that? And I was like, sure, I don't know how to do it, but I said, let's just figure it out. And I was like, you never told me. I was like, what's your story? He's like, oh, I'm a mass shooting survivor, and I like rescued like over a dozen people and like helped save them and whatnot. And I was like, why didn't you tell me that when I first met you? He was just like, he's like, well, because he's like, that's what I did. It's not who I am. Wow. And he was like, what's your story? And I was like, well, I'm an Olympian that got canceled because I said that BLM was dumb. He's like, why didn't you tell me that when I first met you? I was like, that's because it's what I did. It's not who I am. So, you know, that was back in the time when everything was demonize all white people, white privilege and white guilt and all this oppression that all these people who were just, in all honesty, too lazy to do anything, just want to cling on to something that a lot of people had to endure so that they didn't have to. And it's just like now they want to desperately put these chains on just so that they have an excuse to like not try. So when I was there at these events, I met people like him. I started meeting other people, and me and him, myself, Taylor, and our other friend Arya, who is a pageant contestant who got canceled for, you know, speaking out on certain topics and whatnot in her pageantry world.
Wow.
And so all three of us combined, you know, we tackled a lot of issues. You know, I talked about black stuff. Taylor talked about, you know, gun rights. And, you know, Arya was talking about feminism. And nobody could touch us because they couldn't call them racist because they had me there. And
Wow.
nobody could say that, you know, like I was being oppressed because I'm like, no, they've had beginnings that were just as humble, if not worse than mine. So all of that was going on and happening, and that's how I kind of got started there. Now, throughout time, Taylor's an entrepreneur. He has a really successful gun business now. Arya is a really successful reporter and journalist.
Did they try and cancel Taylor even though he rescued all those people?
Later on, they did because of his stance on gun rights. Because after surviving something like that, everyone's just like, yeah, we need to get rid of guns. He's like, actually, no, we need more of them.
Yeah.
He's like, we need more of them because he's like, when bad people have that, and they're like, so you need to, do we need to like monitor and do all this? He's like, no. He's like, it's our constitutional right. He's like, if someone has this, it's up to the people who care about them to make sure that they get help. But he's like, we need to have this right protected because, you know, you take all guns away. He's like, people are going to resort to knives. He's like, then if you take knives away, he's like, people are going to resort to anything else to hurt somebody because he's like, it's a heart condition. He's like, it's not a legislative one. And I was like, that's a really good point. So we did all of that. And then through time, you know, like we stopped touring together and I continued. And this was before I started working for Turning Point. So I was going to schools paying out of my own pocket. I'd buy my flight, I'd pay for my hotel, and I would just go and I would just hang out with students. You know, because everyone's just like, you know, the next generation needs to know, they need to be this, they need to be that. And I mean, like with information overload, people have phones, they have laptops, iPads, you know, like you've got TVs galore in places of houses that I didn't even know existed. Like in my hotel, there's a TV in the mirror in the bathroom. I'm like, well, this is new. Yeah. So there's always places for you to find entertainment and information. I use heavy air quotes with information. Yeah. But very few people that actually want to put the work in to be in front of people. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's what's missing more than anything, because virality, things that are on the internet, people forget that it's one thing, it's temporary. Mm-hmm. Because people will scroll past it after a while. Yeah. It'll lose its steam. And then the only way that people stay relevant is by getting more extreme or by pushing the envelope to where they start putting themselves and the people they care about in danger. But nobody will ever forget a moment where they experienced you in person. Mm-hmm. And the kind of experience that you gave them when they encountered you. And that's what I live for every single day, because when I look at students and I tell them, listen, I was at a place where I literally felt like the best solution for my own self was to just not be here anymore. I thought it was going to make my family happier and wealthier. I thought it was going to make my friends that hated me feel some sort of vindication. I said, and to me, I thought it was the best escape from dealing with all of this stuff. Yeah. But then I said, I looked, and I said, every single person who we have looked up throughout history has all had to go through something where they've all been in the same position that I was. And I said, our forefathers, I said, died in warfare for the freedom of a country that most of them didn't even get to live in after the war was over. And I said, and we stand here on that sacrifice. And for everybody that goes through all of these things and doesn't want to be a part of it, I'm like, they don't know, because they don't know what it is. They have a generation that went before them to make sure that they didn't have to. Yeah. And I said, but when you don't talk about it and you try to do everything you can to keep it silent, that's when people pick up the trend of like, it's just so hard and it's because I'm a black person. I don't look at myself as a black person. I just consider myself someone that's got a slightly better tan than the rest of the world.
And you don't need to work for it.
No,
It's easy.
No. And it took a work to get me there.
Yeah.
You know, as a person of faith, I look at every single person that I've looked up to. You know, David was a great king, but he had to go through the Goliath.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Daniel was a great philosopher who was there to be an advisor to the kings that helped shape the old ancient world where he was, but that didn't take the lion's den away.
Yeah.
Jonah had to go through the whale. Esther almost had to go through extinction and extermination of her people and herself in the process. Christ himself had to come down and endure the cross.
Mm-hmm.
You know, every single person that has wanted to do anything, you with your school, the benefits that you have now came because you were somebody that was saying something that a lot of other people were hoping somebody had the bravery to say.
So let's talk about those benefits. So you lost everybody, is what you said. Who have you gained?
I gained Charlie.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not like friends like that, but you know, like he's my boss, and I have a great deal of respect for him because, you know, seeing what started as a vision for him to build something for the next generation of young people, and I get to be a part of that, is something that's monumental to me. I met some of my forever friends now through Turning Point at all of our conferences that we've had. You know, I've had the chance to travel all over the United States to some of the nooks and crannies of this great country that make it, to me, still an unexplored like map, where it's like, oh, this is the only place that this exists. Like, we're known for this, and like you won't find this any other place in the United States, let alone the world. You know, there's a rich history that's here that I have had the privilege, you know, and it's a privilege because in the beginning I used to think it was a right. But I tell everybody else, doing what's right doesn't come with a reward. Doing what's right is supposed to be done simply for that, because it's the right thing to do. And the sad thing for me is when I see a lot of people in our conservative space that won't speak, they won't show up, they won't talk unless they're getting paid, unless they're getting featured, and unless they're having their name put in some place for people to like recognize them. But at the end of the day, it's just like, you take that away, the mission is still here. It's like we were talking about earlier. You know, Christ said it himself. He said, the work's plenty. The workers are few. As in, there's still going to be a lot for us to do. There's still going to be a lot of areas for us to get involved. There's still going to be a lot of areas where we need people to step up, but very few people are actually going to, because they lack the integrity and they lack the courage. And integrity and courage are byproducts of people who are grounded in truth. And it's not the subjective thing that changes. It's the objective person of Jesus Christ himself, because he calls himself that. He's the way, the truth, and the life. You follow him, he'll guide you. I was like, you get life through him because his way leads to longevity. And I was like, and he gives you the truth because he's got the answer for every circumstance and situation that we find ourselves in today. Yeah. And so that's why he was ingrained in every part of our government, because he was always supposed to be the beacon that we look to at the end of the day to rule justly. I was like, to provide and to also give guidance and peace. Because in Psalms it says, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. Mm-hmm. And we have a rich history of seeing when Israel turned away what happened, but we also see when people turned to God what he did for them. Mm-hmm. And we're in a critical place right now where we are in a position to either go back to where we were, a country on the verge of collapse, where we weren't able to recognize ourselves and it was going to be bad, or to finally do what we've known all along, which is to do what's right by our Creator first. Because we have these rights because of our Creator. You know, this is just the byproduct of all of that.
And how does your dad feel about you now?
He passed, so.
He did?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So I'm
But did he get to at least see you step into this role?
Yeah.
Everything that you're doing? How did he feel when he saw that?
I told him that, and he told me that he was proud of me, and that's the only thing that anyone can hope for, and
I'm sorry he passed.
No, I mean, like he's been a big part in my life and stuff, and I tell everybody, it's just like, you as parents, it's just like, even though you don't see it right away, the things that you keep repeating over your kids, they'll get it eventually.
Yeah.
I was like, that's instilling things in them.
Yeah.
Making sure that over time, because
Sounds like though he taught you great things.
Well, I mean, like, trust me, I gave him and every other person that that knows me a headache. But I'm a work in progress, and the only time I'm ever going to be complete is when I go to meet my maker someday. Mm-hmm. And on my tombstone, the only thing it's going to say, project complete, thank you for your patience.
And your sisters and your mom.
I love my sisters and everything else, and so all of them have been a pivotal, part in like what I'm doing now. They're all proud of me, like they all support everything that I've been doing, and they're the people that I look to whenever I still like find myself questioning a lot of things. And so there's community and family, which is why it's important. That's that nuclear family is really life saving.
Where do they live? Do they live in Arizona?
No, everyone is in New Jersey. I'm the only one that is in Arizona.
Okay.
So.
And, for anybody watching this right now, what advice would you give them if they're going through a cancellation journey? If they're experiencing, just that beat down that the media gives you, where you just feel like everything you've done feels like it's for nothing. What advice would you give them?
If it's not you, it's going to be somebody else. So stick it through so that you're the one that actually gets the benefit of it. Because anybody that's been at the precipice of giving up and whatnot, when we've seen people that we look up to and aspire to be like quit and give up, we lose so much respect for them. And a lot of people put it on subjective things that really don't matter much. Superficial things like, oh, I don't have the following. I don't have like the influence. I'm like, neither did half of the people that did this. They were people that when the mic was hot and it was open for anyone to come and say something, they stood up and they took it and then they just ran with it. So it's living the truth every single day so that when truth is challenged, you're someone that's ready to step up and actually defend it. Because you have so many people that talk a good game, but then when it comes time to actually stand for something, it's like they got nothing to say, because if they do, then they know all the skeletons that they've tried to bury are going to come out.
And what would you say to anybody that's feeling depressed, feeling down? What words of encouragement could you give them to get out of that? Feeling
down and depression is like, it's seasonal. It really is. It comes and goes, and the journey to get out of it is hard, but it's a journey that once you're out is worth it. I know it's difficult, but anything that's worth having always is. Because if it were easy, everyone would be doing it. Exactly. Everyone gets disappointed in life. That's the misconception that a lot of people fail to remember, is that they think that when they're going through something, it's only happening to them. It's only them that's going through it. It's, like all of these things that are happening, and they feel like the only way to like get through it is to isolate and kind of separate themselves. That's the temptation, but everyone goes through it. Everyone has a story of when they wanted something, worked for something, and like they didn't get the result, or like people got rude, or like all this other stuff. That's disappointment. That's what connects us all. Discouragement is where it's different, because discouragement is when you refuse to be hopeful. Discouragement is when you refuse to work through it. Discouragement is when you just want to be negative Nancy to every single person that you talk to, and every group and every social setting that you walk into. You just want to be bringing everybody down so that they're on the same level as you, because the saying is true, misery loves company. So it's like, when you're somebody that can take those kinds of things and realize that this happens and you try to find a way out of it, that's when things change. Now, I mean, like, I say that and it sounds stereotypical, but it's true. If you've heard it a lot of times, it's because there's truth to it. The only way that you work through these kinds of situations is simply that, by working through them. Sitting there and letting it just beat you down and wear on you is only going to lead to the inevitable outcome that we all know is coming next. I was like, people that look for any type of direction, because if you really want it that bad, you're not going to let anybody, you're not going to let any circumstance, you're not going to let anything that, one, doesn't know who you are, doesn't even know your name, could care less about your schedule, your family, your background, or your past, now try to come in here and tell you that this is the best that you got to have for yourself. If you don't believe that you're worth fighting for, you're never going to convince anybody to hop on board with anything that you're doing. At the end of the day, people who see your story and look and see it just like, what was it like? Like how many schools I go to where the students are just like, look, here the school board, and the parents are just like, what do you think I should do with my kid? I'm like, listen, I am not a parent yet. I want to be a father and I want to be a husband someday, but that's the next goal that I have for myself. But I'm in these schools to learn now how to fight for my kids when I do have them. And I tell parents, I'm just like, if this is the truth, you gotta look for a way to say it, because I said the only reason it's happening is because people who know otherwise are being quiet. And remember the saying in 2020, that's like, silence is violence. I'm like, no, it's not, it's consent. Because when you don't step up and voice your opinion to actually call out evil when you see it, then you give everybody else permission to now push the envelope even further, which is why when it went from, oh, love is love and just love whoever you want, now it's just like you have teachers that are more concerned with showing their students how gay they are rather than teaching them work that's actually going to make them better citizens for the world where people swear there are no good people anymore. That's why you have so many people now that are so disoriented in this illusion, because a lot of people have been quiet. And if more men were to tell these boys, you're not a girl, God made you a boy, exactly, there'd be more men out there wearing socks and shorts instead of skirts and stockings. all of these kinds of things.
Yeah, it's true.
There'd be less guys that are out there trying to take advantage of women in vulnerable positions if there were more strong men to actually be the barrier around them, to be like, this is not how men act. And if we as men see that,
kids as well.
of course,
But it's right.
you know, and it all starts there. It starts with adults knowing that this is what you want and doing it in your own space, because you can't talk to people on a national and a global level in a place that you're not doing privately, because you can't practice it in that moment because you're not seasoned and ready for it. So you're just going to make a bigger disaster and mess out of it. So to anyone who's here and anyone who's listening, my message to you is Jesus loves you very much. He created you because he has a purpose and plan for it. And the only way for you to figure that out is to know him. And everyone thinks that, I just don't want to. It's this and that. It's just like, regardless of where you fall and where you fail, all of these things are designed because a lot of people are showing their true colors in the world we live in now. You have so many people that started good, but when the money wasn't there, they stopped showing up. You had a lot of people that said all the good things, but it's just like when they had opportunities to actually go and do more and know what it was going to require and what they got in exchange, they took a step back. There's never going to be a shortage of people that we need for the things that are coming up, because we're on the precipice of winning just a battle. The last 4 years was a battle. It wasn't the war. That's not the end goal. We have everything that we still need to fight for now. We got the territory back. Now we need to continue to push all the nonsense out and then establish a barrier so that whatever is out there knows that if you come here, this is what's going to happen to you.
Mr. Anthony Watson, I'm so happy that you came on our show. I'm so happy that you are who you became. You're a powerful man, and you have a lot to say, and I love your opinions. And those of you out there, God loves you. There's no question. We love you. The purpose of our show is to give a mouthpiece for those who don't feel they've been able to share their stories. I hope you feel a little bit lighter even today being on our show.
No, I really do. Thank you guys.
Well, let's ask you the question. How do you feel being on our show?
I feel good. I was really tired these past couple weeks because I'm on the road a lot, and you know, it's like giving it drains you, and this was actually nice to actually just like sit back and just like have a conversation. I can't tell you the last time I've actually done that.
It's a little therapeutic, right?
Yeah, just sitting and having a conversation with people. I know there are cameras on us and whatnot, but just like to sit here and it's like, you know, it's just like, so tell us about yourself. I'm like, oh wow. I was like, I don't know the last time someone asked me that.
Yeah.
So.
You're an awesome guest, awesome human being. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for letting me be here.
Generous soul. Appreciate you very much.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you for being strong.
Always.